Hey y'all, I'm Heather and welcome to my channel, The Debt Free Quilter. We're back today with the Quilting 101 Back to Basics, and today we're going to learn how to make a string block. A couple different ways. Let's get going. Alright, let's talk about some of the things we're going to need to create a string block. One way we can do it is we can just take a bunch of fabric and sew rows, and that's fine. Now, to make a string block with just strips, it is called making a panel. And that will allow you to make it oversized so you can actually trim it down or cut it down to whatever size you want. You can use whatever size strips you want, whatever colors you want, and honestly, let's just have some fun with this. This one got away from me just a little bit, so I need to pick out so I have mine seam nice like it's supposed to be. Then we press, and of course I'm pressing over there to the dark side, a little tiny bit off camera, but you press whatever way you need to. And then just sew your strips together. Also notice I'm using strips of different widths. So some smaller, some wider, some medium. You can do so much with a string block. It is honestly a blast to make. Now I'm grabbing my big square ruler and I'm going to figure out which way I want to cut this. And it turns out I needed one more strip in order to make it just a little bit wonky. And I flip it and cut the other two sides off. Those made some pretty nice wonky blocks too, now that I think of it. If you want it a little more precise, we can use some printer paper, or if you have some old packing paper laying around like I do, we can use this. So let's start with the printer paper then. Now, all I need to figure out is how big I need this to be, right? Let's see. So I'm going to make this 11 inches or thereabouts. 10 3/4 maybe. What I need is these two pages to line up. And I can remove my ruler. I have a good bit overlapping here, and I'm just going to tape a few pieces of tape on it. Doesn't take a whole lot, but you definitely want to make sure the make sure it's not going to come apart on you. And I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. All right. Now I'm going to pull my ruler over here. And it's paper. We know it's straight on one side, right? So I'm not worried about this edge down here. I'm really not, because we're going to trim it down anyway. I'm just going to cut that off. That's how you can do it with printer paper. You need the tape, you need the paper, you get a square. Because for this project, all the blocks are 10.5 inches. So there's that one. Now, I have this packing paper. The packing paper is my personal preference because it is essentially newsprint paper and it tears really, really easy. So now what I'm going to do is essentially the same thing. Cut myself an 11-inch square. Now, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm going to cut this off down here that I don't need. That's all falling apart. There's that. I've had this around for a while. If you don't have any of this and you want to use it, you can pick some up at Hobby Lobby. Just ask your cashier. They're really cool about that most of the time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get a couple out of this. You never know, I might use one later. Make sure I'm up here. Make sure I'm straight. Kind of. Okay. So I can get a couple out of there. I can get some smaller ones out of there, which I'll probably go ahead and do. Come on. Off of there. Pop that over there. And there's that. And now I have a few squares to work with, right? Like I said, 2 of them, a little bit bigger than the other. I think I had mistook. Yeah, I see what I did. I see what I did. Let me fix that real quick. We don't want 12.5 by 11. We want 11 by 11. Pesky, pesky, guy. There we go. Now that's better. Alright, so I have 3 11-inch squares here that I can use to paper piece some string blocks. Now let me show you another trick that we can do with these, just to make it fun. Okay, I'm back. Now, I'm going to do this part on this one. So, just to make it entertaining, I went and grabbed myself a Sharpie. Just cause. And now, I'm going to draw lines along this paper with this ruler at random intervals. You can literally do these as wide as you want. Just to make things interesting. Flip it around and I'm going to do the other side. I'm not paying too much attention to how wide these are going to be because it's a string block. It's supposed to be fun. Now, if you choose not to draw lines, that's fine too. Just remember to trim away 1/4 inch after you sew and line up your pieces nicely. I'm going to come back and fix this one. I got a little light on there. There we go. To do this, all you need is a straight edge ruler that is longer than your paper. That's the trick. As long as you have a ruler that is longer than your paper, it will be just fine. Because you can even just grab a yardstick if that's all you have. So this is going to be a fun block. It's going to have a bunch of colors on it, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a minute. Now, I have pulled out my string bin, and I am going to start with these. And some of them I don't want to be this wide. I really don't. Let's see, what did I measure these at roughly? I think no larger than 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is take and cut some of these bigger strips that I want to use and need to use up to 2.5 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just pop them over there. And some of these I will not need to be as long. For example, so depending on where I place them, they're not going to need to be as long. So you can cut strips like that, just cut them in half. Some of these I may want to be just a little bit longer. And we're going to cut off the end. It's not going to matter, right? Some of these are going to be really small, like that one, for example. That one's too close, but that one would work. So I'm just throwing stuff out here because these are things that, yeah, I need to work through and I need to get through and use up because they've been sitting in here for who knows how long. Oh, and don't get me started on these greens. That'll be enough green. So many strips and strings that can be used instead of just sitting here in a box. But I think for today's purposes, for right now's purposes, this ought to be pretty interesting. So let's see what this comes up with. Now, as we can see, I'm taking and cutting these roughly in half. That way they're not too big to work with, and just they're easier to deal with in general. Now, I'm going to fully admit I have a light board. I did not pull it out to use it because it was late and I was kind of tired and I just wanted to get things done. So with paper piecing, it goes sew, trim, press. And then if you need to trim some more, you trim some more. In this case especially, otherwise you have some wacky wings hanging off the edges of your squares. Yep, that was an oops moment. You may have those in foundation paper piecing, and that's okay. You can just rip it out and do it again. It's okay. Also, don't be afraid to make a mess with your strings because it's creative. It's a creative mess. It's fine. Now when you have the whole thing done, we're just going to trim the whole thing down. Trim all four sides and don't worry about a thing. For this string block, I'm just going to make sure that all of my pieces are longer than my paper is wide, so that I'm not drawing any lines. I'm just sewing strips onto a piece of paper. Dang bobbin, why'd it have to mess up right then? Now all I did was line that up, and I'm using my foot as my guide for a 1/4 inch. Sometimes I make it, sometimes I'm a little bit wide or a little bit shy, but it's okay. And if I really need to check, I hold it up to the light and make sure that my piece is lined up properly. When trimming this one, I needed to see the paper, that way I make sure I only cut off what I'm supposed to. Yay! We've got our string block finished for the Quilting 101 Back to the Basics. Yay, it's so pretty. Lots of different fabrics, lots of different color. Scrappy, the name of the game, am I right? Now, I hope you have been enjoying all of these Quilting 101 Back to the Basics videos. I know I sure am. Everybody's having a great time. Now, next week, we're going to hop over and see Tracy, Miss At So Supportive. Here. And so we're going to see what she has in store for us next week. I hope y'all have a great day. Have a great week. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.